literally one question or one thought or one new belief to start that spiral. But what's created from that momentum.
Look, motivation is important. I just have judgment around it because we use it against ourselves.
Yeah.
We say, I don't feel motivated, therefore I'm not going to do it. And I always say to clients, you don't need to feel motivated to do it.
Do you ever feel like life is happening to you and it's something that you're not intentionally living and creating? If so, that's what we're going to be discussing today. I'm Jessica Moyney, CEO and founder of the Kindness Catalogue. And with me, I have...
Drum roll. I feel like a drum roll was really appropriate then.
Yes!
I am Claudia, first Jessica's friend. We have been best friends for many years. An entrepreneur, but I think for the purpose of today's discussion, I am a coach at heart. I help people build strong mindsets through evidence-based practices and research so that they can live a healthy and happy life. And so I am so excited for today's conversation.
Let us start by thinking about what an intentional life looks like, or life design actually looks like for us. That would be a good thing for us to discuss, because it wasn't until we were on the way here that we were like, or we were talking beforehand when we were having a coffee, where we were like, wow, we actually do this, we live this. And yet, okay, it has been intentional, but it's not until you stop and are like, am I intentionally living my life? Like in what aspects that you've realized to what extent you've actually designed your life. I think for both of us. For you.
Yeah, I think I've never used that language in that way to be like, oh, I designed my life. Because, you know, when I even look at you designing your life, it takes me back. And I just thought, no, that is exactly what I did around 5 years ago when I became a bit more intentional with my decisions and life. And started asking myself the question, well, what do I want? Yeah. Which I think is a huge question and starting point for designing a life. You have to ask yourself, 100%, what do you want?
Yes.
And we don't always know. Most of the time we don't know because we've never actually asked that question.
Yes.
And it's so simple. And only then did I start saying, okay, I mean, we know, right? I was very stuck. I didn't actually know, couldn't find any clarity there.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely design my life. I just took those steps. And I think I see you doing the same as well.
And it all, like it now, when I'm thinking about it, it all goes back to exploration. I think we were both in very different places in our lives at the time when we made the decision to intentionally design our lives. But it both for us like started with exploring different things. So for you, the nutrition, I always go back to the nutrition because especially because we talk now a lot about like what we're eating, hey, what you eating today, or like things like that, you know, but then I forget that was part of your initial journey, that exploration for you. That's amazing.
Because the only clarity I had, Jess, when I said, what do I want? I didn't really find anything. I just knew I was fascinated with the brain and body. And so how can I learn about those? It was... For the brain, it was neuroscience. For the body, it was nutrition. What are we consuming consciously and unconsciously that's impacting us? So it led to becoming a nutrition consultant, becoming a coach within the field. And it can just start that small. I had no intention of becoming a coach. I had no intention of becoming so much healthier.
Yes.
You know?
It's so funny. It's like, do we all never have an intention of becoming a coach and then we just wind up doing it? It's like, you know what I mean?
Well, so that was something I was going to ask, because we both designed our life, but what does it take? Like, why have we both done that? You said we were in different positions, and we were. But what's the correlation there? Is it, you know, a lot of the time we see, even as coaches, that we get into a place where we're stuck or we're fed up of the same cycles.
Yes.
And why isn't it such a shame we have to get to a place where we feel so much, dissatisfaction with our life, or just
discomfort, or just that noise, that voice that's saying, there's something else.
Something more.
Yes.
And I remember that thinking, there's something more, but you just have no idea. So you just go back into the same pattern, do the same thing. And I think it's unfortunate, but fortunate.
It is, because that voice that I had for many years, like I worked in corporate for 13 years, going to make sure I don't bash the mic as I'm moving around here. But yeah, so I worked in corporate for 13 years and I always had that voice. Actually, that voice started when I was about 21, and I really started out working for like an international media company and tech firm. And that was like the best it got, that opportunity. But that's when that voice started. I feel like there's something more. I feel like there's something more. And in fact, you said it to me when this voice intensified. I think it was like a few years ago, and I really sat down with myself. I was in a great place, like I had everything that you could ever want, but I just knew that I needed to make the decision at some point soon. Otherwise, I was going to let another 10 years pass me by. And I remember you said to me, listen to that voice because it's trying to teach you something. And only now that I'm a coach myself, it's like, yes, that was my sign and signal all along to get curious with myself. So I think for me, it was sitting down in silence in Nepal when I went on that silence retreat and like learning about Buddhism, and had that time and space to really gain clarity on what I wanted. And all I knew at the time was I wanted to help people, I wanted to create, and I wanted to learn. And there was a few other things in there as well, like freedom and other things. But there was like, it can start, it doesn't have to start, but it can start with values. Exploring that. And you always talk, like in our conversations, you always go back to your values 100%. As well.
It helps with decision making. It helps you get clarity, knowing who you are. And anything, you can always come back. Your brain just needs something so simple to come back to at any point. But the question I have for you then, Jess, when you're saying about that inner voice, name that inner voice. What was it if you're looking back? If that it's always been there since 21, what is that inner voice?
That was my true self. That was my authentic, weird, wonderful self that I ignored. I locked up in a box for too long because I was trying to fit into this mold, this corporate environment. Like we said when we were setting up for this, it was like, I'm just going to, I'm going to kick my shoes off and cross my legs because that's who I am.
But was it too long? Were you there too long? Do you think that you should have done something different at 21 then?
No. I actually was having a conversation with my ex-boss, Andy, yesterday. And he said, I feel bad that you stuck at it for so long. And I was like, wait, where has that come from? I was like, I do not regret a single moment of my corporate career. I gained so much from it. I'm like, now, I talk about anxiety and burnout and overwhelm. That's normal. Most people in a role that isn't aligned with their true self are going to experience some sort of discomfort as a sign to say, hello, wake up. But for me, I gained the main lesson, the value of listening to myself. It took me a long bloody time. But I would have never have got there if I didn't go through the discomfort of ignoring myself. That makes sense.
But I want to normalize it as well, because there's going to be a lot of people that are in corporate or in employment that feel like there's something more. It's not for everybody to not be in corporate. I've coached some clients that their dream is to be CEO. And when they get there, it's still their dream. They're living their dream. It's different for everybody. So I think we can get caught up in thinking like, oh, freedom is not being employed.
100%.
No, freedom comes from the mind. And I just think that, like you said, you wouldn't have done anything different. You weren't supposed to listen to that voice at 21 of getting out of corporate. But you could ease it up a bit to be like, okay, I know this isn't for me long term, but there's so much I'm going to gain from this and learn. And allow yourself just to go through the process. We don't have to be reactive. If you have that inner voice, what we're saying is just get quiet with it. Get still, start listening, start understanding yourself.
To teach you? Yes, that's it. Exactly. You know what? You made a great point then. It was like, and I found this, like the more I'm talking about entrepreneurship and freedom, I don't want people to think that I'm romanticizing quitting your corporate job and starting a business.
So important.
It is not where happiness lies.
No.
Happiness, for me at least, lies in aligning your life and how you spend your time with what truly matters.
Yeah.
And if part of that is achieving, because we've got a friend, Nisha, she loves to achieve, and she's openly spoken about this with us.
Yeah.
And her role in her company helps her fulfill that, and that is amazing.
Exactly.
For her.
Yes.
And many examples of people that we've coached as well that are on the same path on that journey to CEO. Amazing. As long as it aligns with who you are and what you truly want.
I don't know about you, Jess, but I know that procrastination is something that we all do.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you found this with yourself, with coaching clients, but it's very common for us to get stuck in not taking action.
Yes.
Whether we want to call it in the planning phase or whatever. What do you think keeps people stuck and not taking action?
You know what? I think it is so unique to every person. If I think about myself, of why I was stuck, if you like, if we use that word, I think that it was purely based on my limiting beliefs, right? I unconsciously had limiting beliefs keeping me there. It was the idea of starting something and failing. What if I fail? It's all the what ifs. It was all the hidden rules that I created for myself. Like, what if I failed? What if I'm judged? What if I'm embarrassed that something fails and have to come back? It was like I catastrophized and played out the worst case scenarios, and that left me being like, you know what? I'm quite comfortable. Is burnout that bad?
Yeah.
And I stayed there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so for me, definitely limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
How about for you?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's important for us to define what limiting beliefs is, because it's something that is such a, I don't know, what would you call
buzzword.
it? A buzzword.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Now, the way a belief is simply a thought that you have kept thinking over on repeat.
Yeah.
And so you just believe it now. You have so much evidence for it.
Yeah.
Limited belief is one that just is keeping you stuck. It's not helping you progress forward, which is what we do as coaches, is start to identify what are those things and how can we disprove, break through, work with it in some way to move you forward. And so limiting belief, absolutely. And they come in all
shapes and sizes.
They sound like you're not good enough, you're not worthy, no one's going to listen to you, you're irrelevant, etc. And I think when I start thinking about it, what does it boil down to? Anything we're not changing, we're choosing. And when I heard that one day, I was like, that's powerful.
Yes.
So if we apply that here, people, unconsciously, we're choosing comfort over courage.
Yes.
And that's the simplest way I can say it, because your dream life, you don't yet have it. It's something that is different to now. It's unfamiliar. Anything that is unfamiliar for you and your brain is scary.
Yes.
And your brain is built to protect you.
Yeah.
And so that protection will look like staying safe. How can I keep you safe?
Yeah.
I can keep you safe in the familiar, in the comfort that we know. Even if burnout doesn't serve you, your brain knows that you're at least alive.
Yes.
So whatever we're doing right now, it's okay.
And I'm going to bounce back eventually.
We don't know what's going to happen if you go out there and start your dream life.
Yes.
And so it sounds like, you're not good enough. It's self-doubt. It's fear of failure, imposter syndrome.
Yes.
It's all of those things.
Yeah.
Just being aware of that is just so important.
That is powerful. And
and normalizing it, Jess. That is a human brain.
Yeah.
So if you have any of those, that is a human brain working at its best. And so let's celebrate that.
Yeah.
Because it means you can change it.
Because the funny thing is, for us, it's like, people think, oh, great, you're a coach. Does that mean that your entire life is perfect and you've got everything figured out? And so, no, let's just put it right there. Absolutely not. And you know what? That's something that I pride myself on, and something, probably that connects both of us so well and keeps us best friends, because we're so authentic with exploring.
We're human beings.
Yes.
So when people say, you're a coach, you should be happy. No, we're human beings.
Yes.
Human beings have brains that are built, you know, there's part of it that's built to protect us. It should always be functioning.
Yeah.
We need it to be, because we need to be able to jump out the road when the car's coming. We need that like fear reactive brain. We just need to manage it in the modern world
100%.
of what's appropriate. It's not we're not in danger by going and having a conversation with someone, or putting a new piece of content out for our business, or telling people that we're a coach, or we want to be a CEO one day.
Yeah.
That's what we need to kind of normalize and say, we are human beings. Of course, we're going to have all those things come up.
Yes.
And that's normal. Let's celebrate it together.
I think in the beginning, so obviously I'd done the work on myself. I'd, you know, taken my coaching course. I'd coached a number of clients at this stage and quit my job, started my business. And so an element of me was like, yeah, figured it out. Got this.
I've arrived.
Yeah. Exactly right.
Yeah.
I put in 2 years worth of work to get to a certain point, only to be like, in January, you know, I think you mentioned to me, like, when are you going to launch your socials, you know, business socials or your website or anything like that? And I was like, when I'm more prepared. And then when I heard that answer and I started digging around, that's the beauty. We always get to dig around.
Yeah.
Digging around at why, I was like, that is perfectionism in disguise. Yes. And so whilst I'd unlearned so many things, that was one that I needed to break through. And I think just making that decision to say, you know what, I am just going to own up to being human, normalize being human, being authentic, figuring it out, bring people along on the kindness catalog journey of figuring out logos, fonts, a brand voice, and everything, all the details in between. And wow, like the pressure, the release, it was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. And then I launched the socials, and everything just spiraled from there. Yeah.
I think that perfectly sets us up to talk about how, well, the one thing I want to say is we're always figuring it out.
Yeah.
No one has arrived. There is no place where we arrive.
Yes.
Even the people that you admire, they're figuring it out too.
100%.
And so I coach it a lot, and it stops people from getting started thinking that, one, they have to have the perfect plan.
Yeah.
And I promise you, even if you do, it's going to change.
Yes.
Because as soon as you start taking action, you learn something new, you have to adapt.
100%.
We think we have to know the how before we even start. We find it just by taking action.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important that perfectionism, which is so common, it's just breaking that down in your head. What is it you think? Like, how are you ever going to know?
Yes.
Your perfect is different to my perfect.
This is it. It's so subjective. And because I was thinking, when I sat down with myself back then, I was like, perfect doesn't exist. I'm like, well, it made to me, but I think of it like this and you think of it like that. So, and I traced back my steps in the corporate years, and it was like, even then when I was priding myself on perfectionism and being the best at X, Y, and Z, it was like, there was always someone to have something to say about something, because we're all so different. Yeah. And that is the beauty of us.
Exactly. I was just about to say something. That is the beautiful thing. Otherwise, if we were all the same, it'd be boring. We would not have a conversation.
Yes.
And so it is important that we're different. But seeing someone else's it's feedback. It's not criticism.
Yeah.
Again, brains go into shutdown.
Yeah.
But I think it's also important to, what we're kind of summarizing there is, we focus more on perfection over progress. Yes. The progress comes on just taking action. And yes, it's scary. It's supposed to be. If it feels scary, you're doing it right.
Yes.
If it's not, then it's probably something that you're already doing. And so let's talk about action, because that's the thing, right?
Yes.
What kind of action do people need to take to start, building that dream life, designing their dream life?
Yeah.
Or a life they love, however we want to say it, right?
Yes, creating a life you love. Like, I think definitely starting with assessing where you are in every area of your life, or at least the key areas of your life, right? From finances, career, fun, self, health, like such a big scope, and seeing what a 10 would look like,
Yeah.
exploring what a 10 would look
Yeah.
like. And it's such a fun process to get to do that.
Yeah. So we call it like the wheel of life.
Yes.
That's what I tend to do with clients.
Yeah.
You can choose any areas.
Yeah.
There's always the buckets I work with: health, wealth, relationships.
Yeah.
You can add on a few more, like spirituality, money, etc. The simplest thing, rate it. Scale of
Yeah.
1 to 10. Why?
Yes.
What would make it a 10? Honestly, that question on its own, what would make that a 10?
It's powerful.
You're like, oh my God, you
Yeah.
start finding your answers. That's the clarity.
Yes, that's okay. So that's part of the course that I'm creating, the Create the Life You Live course.
Okay.
And I call it a genie in a bottle.
Nice.
You know, that is your genie in the bottle asking you, because a lot of the time when I've done this exercise with clients, they get stuck with their, oh, what does this cover? What's going? I'm like, literally anything.
Yeah.
You know, imagine anything. So I think, for me anyway, at least once you have started to get an understanding of what that 10 looks like in each of the areas of your life, I think prioritizing. We can focus on a limited amount of things at one time, right? Like we've all been there, we've all done it, we go through
We
it.
can't multitask. We're the best multitaskers.
Right, but I mean, imagine like juggling like 10 different balls. It's like, you know,
We try.
impossible. We try our best. But yeah, I think prioritizing and taking small action, like you said, progress over perfection, because those micro shifts, they create a ripple effect, and the impact, the momentum it builds. But obviously, you know, staying there, and I know motivation is not a word you like to use, but like, you know, keeping on that track is a whole other question on its own.
Motivation is important. I just have judgment around it because we use it against ourselves.
Yeah.
We say, oh, I don't feel motivated, therefore I'm not going to do it. And I always say to clients, you don't need to feel motivated to do it.
Yeah.
Or if you want to feel motivated, let's create the motivation. It doesn't just arrive. And that's what you wait. I'm waiting for the motivation.
Yeah.
No,
Good
what's
luck.
really happening is you're doubting yourself, like the fear of judgment, the fear of failure is kicking in. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Let's find the reason of why we're going to move forward
Yeah.
and how we can take that bold, massive action.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think even if we cover that, because we can cover feelings and what we need to fuel it and everything all day, but let's also talk about how to actually take that action, how we would define it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but for my clients, I define it as massive action and passive action.
Yeah.
Massive action for me, and I think you call it something a little bit different, like bold action.
Yeah.
Massive action for me is going out and doing an action that is a little bit scary.
Yeah.
Is putting you out there, and how can you define between the two if you know if you're taking massive action or passive action is results.
Yeah.
Are you doing something that's getting some sort of feedback or something that's making you feel a little bit more, I don't know, vulnerable? For me, passive action is appropriate, but it's consumption. So it's listening to a podcast, it's listening to a podcast, it's reading a book.
Yeah.
You can do that, but you've got to have a balance. The massive action is then going and creating something.
Yeah.
So for me, just to understand that yourself, because that's when we get stuck in the planning phase, right?
Yes.
Oh, I'm just going to listen to this podcast to learn this little bit more. Amazing. But then we've got to go and take that massive action.
Yeah.
Where it is a little bit scary.
Yes.
And just go out and just do those little things.
I like to call it, or I like to link it back to exposure therapy, because it's something that I learned in therapy, and it's now something that I incorporate into my coaching. It is unbelievably powerful. The idea of micro exposure to things that scare us, because like we were saying, that fear comes from the unknown, going out of our comfort zone and trying something new. But taking micro action and reassuring your brain, I am safe here. I can do this, even if there's an element of discomfort, right? Like that's completely normal. But then you get the choice of saying, of course, like this scares you, like, or of course this, like you're blushing, or of course you're shaking because this is something that's new to you, or this is something this is a skill that you're developing, or whatever it may be. But that idea of exposure therapy has worked unbelievably for me in my life, in every area of my life, in designing a life that I love.
But this is a powerful shift, right?
Yeah.
If we don't go and do something that's uncomfortable, we don't create the opportunity to change the patterns in our brain.
Yeah.
So our brain has just learned that is scary. We don't do that. But unless we do it and learn how to self-regulate and learn how to create safety with nerves, create safety around fear, embarrassment, shame, they're all appropriate feelings. Are you kidding me? We're human beings. We need the contrast. Yeah. And it's okay to feel them. We've just learned to shame it, cover it, and it feels so much worse.
Yeah.
We get to learn how to feel it by challenging. And like you said, just small little things.
Yeah.
Just pick something that's going to challenge you a little bit more.
Yeah.
So you create that opportunity to just say, I'm going to go and, for a lot of people, it's maybe going to a coffee shop on their own and sitting on their own. That's a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Okay, today I'm going to go and do that. And I'm going to tell myself it's okay.
Yes.
And just like a little bit, you just get to learn.
Yes.
And the way I like to look at it with everything, rewire your brain. It's possible.
Yes.
Self-regulate with emotions.
Yes. And so many of us are caught in a trap of not feeling. I was, through the course lesson today, I was talking about this because it was, a lot of us are raised in environments where our parents say things like, be a big girl or boy, and stop crying, or why are you afraid? There's nothing to be afraid of. Toughen up, be strong. And so
don't worry about that. It's like those kind of things.
Our parents, they did the best that they could with the understanding of the brain that they had, But I think the idea of sitting with our emotions, feeling, and actually using those emotions as an indication of where you're going and what needs to change in your life is so powerful. It is.
Yeah.
And
because that's what I would say is just so important. If you think you don't know what you want, just start noticing. Notice what energizes you in the day, what you love doing, what feels good and like in your body feels good. And notice what drains you. It can be as small as that, because that's how I had to start, not knowing what.
I think, when I was feeling burnt out at work, I had signs. I had signs over and over again that I just ignored. The time that I was hospitalized
physical,
with meningitis,
I was going to say.
right? Yeah, so physical, so headaches or pressure or tightness in my forehead and neck. And of course, you're like, headache, brush it under the rug. And that had happened and intensified for 2 weeks before I found out it was meningitis and before I was hospitalized. But I always think back to that moment of somebody who thought they were quite self-aware, just looking at the progress that I've made until now, because I would never let those things go unnoticed in my life now. Headaches or tightness and things like that, I would sit and check in with myself and ask where they're coming from. But it also makes me smile because, again, 6 months, 6 years from now, I'm going to sit and giggle at things that I'm doing today. We're always a work in progress.
Yes, that's why we never arrive. This is, the relationship with ourselves is the longest relationship we'll ever have.
Yeah.
And so it is worth investing in. It is worth getting to know yourself. The same way you get to know everybody else.
Yeah.
And you want to know about their lives, know about yours.
Yes.
Just ask those simple questions.
Yeah.
So I want us to chat about what it looks like, right, to live a life that you love and designed. Because I'd love to know your experience. Like, what does that look like for you?
Yes. Okay. So I think, it started, we've been through how it started, but I think the only thing that I had clarity on was I wanted to help people. I wanted to contribute to the world. I wanted to have an impact on the world. I wanted to learn. I love to learn. I love to grow. I love education. And for somebody who never went to university, that was such a big thing for me that I felt like I was missing out on. Sure, I had a lot of practical experience, but I wanted formal education. So the last one was being creative, being stuck behind a desk for 13 years when I went to a performing arts school and was up on the stage every day, or, you know, like it was just so bizarre for me. I lost that version of myself. So these were 3 things. And I started to look at what that looks like. Literally, the brainstorming session with myself was from a chef to
I love
teacher.
it. I like food, so I'm going to cook. I think I've done that as well.
You know?
Yeah.
You literally, like, the scope was, I mean, not as far as an astronaut, but, you know, there was just like, there was just things on that list. And one of them was becoming a coach. But because, you know, I love personal development, I had always invested in seminars and therapy and coaches and so many different things that I said, well, let me start by taking a course. And that's why I was laughing in the beginning, where we were like, you know what, do we ever go in with the intention of becoming a coach, or do we go in with a love for personal development and say, you know what, this is too powerful to keep to ourselves?
Yeah, I think you have, it impacts you so much that you think, and it's so simple. It's not easy, but it's simple that you're like, how can you not share that?
Yeah, 100%.
And I think it would be disservice not to put that value in the world.
Yes.
As well. So yes, there might be a lot of coaches. That's great. Find your one.
Yeah.
Because everybody's different. Yeah. Just the one that you feel hears you, understands you.
Yeah.
That's
that is your person. And you know, if I look at like day-to-day life right now, and how I have developed from taking a coaching course to taking an NLP course to starting a new course now, and developed into the coach that I am today. But how specifically creating a life that I love looks like and shows up in day-to-day life. It is constantly learning, taking courses, never stop learning. It is helping people through my coaching, through my workshops, through my courses, and creating. My creative outlet is social media, you know, and some people like to paint, and that's amazing. That's great for them. For me, I love dancing, singing, getting to use my brain in a way where I have a complex message that I want to get across, and being creative and like, how can I simplify that? You know? So I think, day to day looks like a combination of those things. And then just checking in with my body. And I know that is the most bizarre thing. Like, okay, how does that link back to creating a life that you love? But I allow myself headspace, which is something I never created for myself before. But whether that's 10 minutes, 30 minutes in the morning, but I always have 2 hours in the afternoon, and I have 30 minutes before bed. And that looks different. I can nap, I can watch my show, I can sit down and be like, how are you feeling, Jess? What do you need? Depends on how I feel. But that is the life that I love. And that'll be so much different for you or somebody else, right?
And just, it may be that, you know, people are listening or watching and thinking, it's great for you guys to be sitting there. They've listened to what you've gone through and thought, well, you're just probably naturally just great on camera, creative. And they're thinking, that's not for me. Because we see people and we just think, it's not possible for me. I'm feeling really terrible right now. I don't know how to get out. Just because, you know, you've gone through that, you know the actual steps. What's your piece of advice for them if they're thinking, it's not possible for me to have a life that I love living?
I would say, starting today, take 5 minutes with yourself and feel the way forward. And that would look like writing down 3 non-negotiables. How you want to feel in life, how you want to spend your time, and what you're not willing to compromise on. And see what that brings up for you. That can give you a sense of direction, a starting point, something to build on, right? And if that's not enough, my course will be perfect. So if you're interested, guys, Life by Design, create a life you love. The link is in the bio, and you can use discount code kindness20 to get 20% off if you're coming from this podcast. But my course looks at every element of creating a life you love, not just what's easy and what's doable for me, but what's doable for you. If you might be feeling stuck, overwhelmed, burnt out, craving a change, or you might have that little voice in your head, like me, that's been whispering to you for too long, something's got to give. I need something different in my life. So check out the link and hopefully I'll see you there. But back to you, Claude. So like, what does that look like for you, creating a life that you love? Like what would your one piece of advice be for people?
Okay. First, I want to say, and not just because I absolutely love you and you're my best friend, but I just think this course that you have put together would be a great investment for anyone, because I think investing in yourself anyway it's never wasted.
Yes.
And so even if, like, just come with a beginner's mindset, a fresh outlook, even if you're judging, thinking, oh yeah, this is all whatever, come, embrace yourself into the process. Take what lands from your course and what doesn't, because not everything is always going to land. But having someone guide you through a process is huge. So it doesn't matter. Don't come with expectations. Just go, enjoy. There will be questions that just spark something, and it takes one thought to change everything.
One thought to change everything. 100. Yes, I love that idea, because, you know, when we were both going through our journeys, it's at least for me.
And for everyone to know that we went through together on both of each other's journey. We've been friends for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And so we were there for each other.
We were there. And I think that we were one of the only people that we shared our inner, deeper thoughts with. And so you can very clearly see, tracing back through our journeys, how that thought and how that question that we asked each other at different points in time led to clarity and different decisions. And it's beautiful. And so thank you. Thank you for helping promote my course. That's I
really don't say that as someone that just loves you, and I just know the impact that it's going to have. And I also know, because of your personal experience, how much more impactful. And freshly so, right? You're taking tools that have literally just helped you step into this version of you. So it's not any more appropriate than right now.
And I love what you said about, you will never regret an investment in yourself.
No, it's never wasted.
No, I look back over all the money I made in corporate, and that is one thing I'm truly grateful for in the corporate environment. I made money, and that was what I was chasing at the time, and I fulfilled that, although I wasn't fulfilled. But the ironic thing is, I reinvested that money into therapist, coach, health, wellness, seminars, retreats. And I don't regret a single penny of it being spent, because it led me to clarity. It led me to decisions that meant stepping into my authentic self. But like you say, it can take literally one question or one thought or one new belief to start that spiral. But what's created from that momentum can be mind-blowing.
Absolutely. And just, you've got to do what is not for you to know what is more meant for you. So the fact that you went through 30 years, it just gave you more and more clarity. This is not for me. But this part kind of is. So how can I bring this creativity into something to live the life? Like, that's the thing.
It's like the game of life. That's what I like to call it.
I love the game of life. Put little kids in there with me in the car.
It's like the
Get with the family. Love that. You know, I used to play Grand Theft Auto with my brother just to pretend I was driving my family in the car to the shops. It's like, you're supposed to kill people.
That's not the point of the game.
You're supposed to run them over. Anyway, that's not a life of design.
That's not a life of design. No, but that game of life is like,
So the one thing I do want to say, I want to then pose a question to you. What's something that you want to say that maybe we haven't covered? For me, what I do actually really want to stress about this, because I want to mention that we're not selling perfect, right? We're not saying that if you have a life that you love, that everything's rainbows and daisies. That doesn't exist. We need polarity in life. Life is 50-50. And so if you ask me, well, Claire, what would you say, living a life that you love looks like? I would say, Jess, I'm going to be controversial and say it looks like any other human life of living the human experience of 50-50. Because there are things in the world we cannot control. And because of that, you will have the 50-50. But that challenging 50, I don't know about you, but it feels different.
It feels different.
Because
Yes.
I know my why, just like Simon Sinek says, how important having your why is.
Yeah.
Like knowing why you're doing this,
Yeah.
why, okay, self-doubt, of course it's coming up.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing this for me. Of course, I just failed and that's okay. I'm doing these steps for me. The challenges, they still feel like, oh.
Yes.
But then it's self-regulating, like this is okay. This is the lesson I'm going to take. And
it is that. It's the learning from that.
Yes.
Seeing it
You
from
gain
a
so
different
much more.
lens. Yeah.
Yes. And actually, that is exactly what that other 50 feels like.
We get it.
And that is exactly what that other 50 feels like. That 50, you actually gain so much from it,
Yeah.
that challenging 50.
Yeah.
When you're living a life that you love.
Yeah.
Because you're just learning the whole time. It's more awareness of yourself. You're like,
Yeah.
but this is fulfilling and this feels uncomfortable. And it just helps that exploration.
It's like when we trace back our tracks, obviously we were both in a situation where we're like, something's got to give, something's got to change. But was it right, I am going to design a life I love? No, it just happened by default of living in alignment with who you are, how you want to spend your time, what you value, and all that other good stuff, right?
But it starts small, right? Because that seems so overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's just like, just starting to ask yourself, like, what do I want?
Yes.
That's what I did, Jess.
Yeah.
I was like, what do I want? I didn't know. I just kept walking round and round and round in circles.
Yeah.
It may take a few days. It could take weeks.
It could
That's
take
okay.
months.
Keep asking.
Yes.
And just feeling, like you said, feel.
Yeah.
What feels light in your body.
Yeah.
Do more of that.
Yeah.
What's draining you? Maybe do less of that.
Yes.
And just start there.
But you know what? I find people in corporate, when I have spoken about this before on LinkedIn and other places of doing the energy audit and seeing what drains you and doing less of that, I find that people might be sitting at home thinking, yeah, that's great for you guys as entrepreneurs and coaches to say that, but I am bound by a schedule. And I was thinking about this the other day. I look back at what I could have done differently to live in a happier, more fulfilled life, even if I stayed in corporate.
Yeah.
And I very clearly see that in my calendar, it was full to the brim of these energy drainers and these external pressures because I didn't set boundaries.
Yeah.
And that is something that you can start with, setting boundaries. You don't have to accept every meeting request that's in your calendar. You don't have to accept other people's deadlines. I mean, sometimes, of course, but I would say 50% of the time, we are in a situation where there's room for negotiation and proactively scheduling in time for those things that light you up. 10 minutes here, 30 minutes there, evening to yourself, no late calls. Like, you know it.
It should be the first thing, because I have a new client at the moment who has the narrative of no control over their time.
Yeah.
The first thing I asked her to do is next week, the first thing you're scheduling in is something for you.
Yes.
And
Then
you put that in, you allow it all to come in.
Yes.
And what that does is just building a relationship with yourself to say, I do have control over my time.
Yeah.
Yes, people are going to put things in. That's part of it.
Yeah.
We have control over that first hour in the day, and then, the world's there.
Yeah.
But scheduling something in and following through, you're saying to yourself, like, you matter.
Yes.
Like, we can do this.
Yes.
And what actually comes about is a belief that we found that actually, even if I were to take that time, I'm not going to enjoy it anyway. Because we think we're going to be so stressed thinking about everything else in work.
Yeah.
How do we know if we don't try?
Yes. Yes,
And
exactly.
it just starts so small like that, Jess. Taking a 30-minute next week, when it's 30 minutes in your schedule next week, because you can schedule in now for you, and it is sacred.
Yes. And on that note, I have a client who is very similar circumstances, and they tried that, and within the first 30 minutes that they scheduled for themselves, what came up for them was distraction.
Yeah.
And so we went back to it, and we sit down at the beginning, or they sit down with themselves at the beginning of those 30 minutes and intentionally say, this is my time. I know that there is other stuff there waiting for me, because there is always stuff to do. But for the next 30 minutes, I'm making a conscious decision to give this to myself. And I'll come back to the other stuff later. And I tell you what, that worked wonders.
Yeah, you got to be intentional.
Yeah.
It's not just, let's just go and do it. You got to be intentional with that.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, because then you created that opportunity for them to then go and recreate a new link in their brain that it's okay.
Yes.
It's okay to take time for me. Everything else is okay. No disasters.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a snowball effect from there. It can be.
Yeah.
That's why we're saying just take one small step.
One teeny tiny
Call
step.
it the 1% club.
Yes, the 1% club. Yes.
You just do one thing every day and
yes.
Yeah.
And that could look like, honestly, for me when I started, it looked like, because I was under the narrative and belief that I had no control over my time. I was exactly there.
Yeah.
So it looked for me like going to the bathroom cubicle and sitting for 5 minutes on my own.
Yeah.
That was enough for me at the time. But then, like you said, you reaffirm to your brain, oh, okay, I do have a sense of control over here. I can prioritize myself. I am important. And then it created the snowball. Before I knew it, those 10 minutes in the bathroom turned into 30-minute nap on the sofa, you know?
But that's why
I needed it.
Yeah, and it's so important, Jess, because if you're in employment and you're making someone else putting meetings in, you're making that mean that you have no control over your time. It doesn't matter if you weren't in employment. You're going to make something else mean that you have no control over your time.
Yes.
Like children, relationship, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's just a learnt pattern.
Yeah.
You're just faced with a set of challenges, the 50-50. Yeah. And we're trying to work with your brain to show it that, no, we're okay. We do have control.
Yeah.
So just notice, again, what feels light in your body and what's challenging, and it's possible.
Yes,
it's possible to change it.
You know, I very nearly slipped back into the habit. When I say very nearly, the thought crossed my mind when I became an entrepreneur that I had no control because there was so much to do.
Yeah.
Right? And I caught myself very early, but it's okay if you don't anyway. You can always build a new belief, build a new thought, right? That creates your reality. But I caught it in time to say, this is not true. And to prove this, this is what I'm going to do.
Yes.
And that's when my 2 hours in the afternoon became sacred.
Amazing.
Now I do take a 30-minute nap, sometimes 1 hour if I need it, right? I ask my body what I need.
Yeah.
But sitting down, having lunch with my husband, voice noting you, like eating my lunch and playing with the dogs and throwing their ball and sitting down and watching TV, whatever I want to do. And I know for you, your time looks different, you know, like you enjoy your walks and things like that. But that's why we're all so unique.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of us as humans and
the beauty of your course is going to uncover that for everybody,
and the beauty of our friendship. I want to end on that beautiful note, the beauty of our friendship. And I know it's about the course, you know, the reason that I asked you here today and to be part of this, because I knew that if anybody was going to help in creating a life that people love, like as well as my course, like you are the person to add value. You know, you are somebody that I value, respect, love, and I knew that your insights would be so awesome. And so thank you. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me to be part of the conversation.
Oh, it's a shame that we can't move around these mics to really hug it out like we want to, but I'm going to give you a big kiss afterwards.
Love you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining us. And I will see you in the next one. And Clouds will see you very soon on her own.